Welcome to the Old School Food Freedom Podcast, brought to you by your friends at Finding Balance. I'm your host, Chrissy Kirkman. On this show, we kick it as old school as it gets with how God created us to live, free from dieting, food rules, and body shame. Ready to replace the old soundtrack of cultural lies with biblical truth? Let's start with this. You don't have to be trapped by food struggles. You were created to be free. God adores you and wants you to experience the fullness of life without body hatred or bondage to dieting. The time is now to take a step toward the life you were created for. We're so glad you're here with us today. Let's get into today's episode. Today, I'm joined by Ashley Smith to talk about hypothalamic amenorrhea, also known as HA. It's a condition behind many missing periods and unexplained fertility struggles. Ashley, along with the HA Society, helps women recover their cycles, restore hormonal health, and, if desired, get pregnant naturally. Even if you're past the season of periods yourself, this conversation might just be what someone you love needs to hear. It's a message of hope, healing, and the incredible things our bodies can do when given the right support. Hey, Ashley, welcome to the Old School Food Freedom Podcast. I'm so glad you're here today.
Me too. This is like long time coming.
It is such a long time coming. We have tried to make this episode work, and the time is now. I don't know why, but thank you, Lord. We trust you.
Yes. On this morning with these allergies, absolutely. Go time.
We're going to go, and Jesus is taking the wheel literally from our allergic responses. Oh,
yes.
Gosh. Love it. Well, friends, this is Ashley Smith. Let me tell you a little bit about her. She helps women restore ovulation and get pregnant naturally without medication or extreme interventions. Drawing from her own journey with hypothalamic amenorrhea. They also call it HA, so we'll probably refer to it as HA, but it's hypothalamic amenorrhea. She also has experience as a nutrition coach, a college-level athlete, and training in eating disorders and biblical counseling. And Ashley guides women through recovery and back to health. She lives in Fort Worth with her husband, her daughter, and their doggos. Ashley Smith.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I was telling you earlier, I'm just going to take that beautiful summary and I'm going to use it everywhere.
Do it.
Yeah. Way to sum up my life.
Okay. I am not a bio writer at all, but I just tried to condense it a little bit, and that's what we got. And I think it's pretty good for you. Yeah.
Yes, very well.
All right. So you know how we kick the show off with a question of what old school item or experience do you miss from back in the day? I'm excited to hear this.
Yes. So I was thinking about this and I had one, but then the one that just instantly came to me is, do you remember when you used to be playing outside, whether it's summer or after school, and you would come home, or maybe it's Saturday morning, and you would just have the biggest bowl of cereal, obnoxious. You know what I mean? What's so interesting is as we look at our journey, I traded that big bowl of cereal for a big, giant, massive salad that also got me nowhere, but far less joy. I don't know, just the milk, the cereal. I don't know. I guess for me, it represents a time that there is a time in my life where I didn't care. I wasn't thinking about how does this impact my body composition? Will I be lean? Will I look like this? You know what I mean? It was just operating in freedom, you know?
Yeah, that is fun. I mean, bowls of cereal. I mean, that was my jam. And it tasted better back then. We have had conversations before. I don't know if the cereal is just made differently now than it was back then. Or maybe it's just I'm a kid and this tastes good. And it wasn't bingy. It wasn't shame-filled.
No.
I just had a bowl of cereal. I enjoyed it. I moved on with life.
Yeah, it's so interesting, right? Because I'm sure if we were to look at a big bowl of cereal that we ate as kids and moved on with our life,
yeah,
I'm sure if we had that same bowl now, we would have so many thoughts around it. It'd be oh my gosh, I just binge cereal.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, maybe it's a little bit obnoxious, but it wasn't binge eating back then.
Right.
And I would argue, what if it's still not binge eating now? Like, what if it's just still the same massive bowl of cereal and it's just like the way that we interact with it has clearly changed through our experiences, things that we've learned, just all these things, right?
Yeah. And we were burning off energy playing outside. We didn't have cell phones. I mean, we had video games, but it was a totally different scene.
Yeah.
I was very much glued to Saturday morning cartoons for a long time. But they were high quality cartoons.
But to your point, yeah, like we were off moving and playing and it wasn't related to our body. It wasn't related to calorie burn. It wasn't related to like, will this make my butt look better?
Yeah.
So I do think it's interesting. Like those are two things that like, what if we started off in freedom and then like we've just moved away from it?
You bet. Moving for joy. Love that. So good. That was really sweet. Those were good memories for me too. Oh, so good. Okay. The big words. Hypothalamic amenorrhea.
Yes.
We're going to shorten it to HA today.
Yes.
And that's what y'all do. So just let's start by saying, what is HA? What does that mean? Why are we listening to an episode about HA?
Yeah. Why is this important? So hypothalamic amenorrhea, yes, it is a mouthful for sure. And if we're going to go, what is the textbook answer of this? This is where your hypothalamus and your pituitary, these are two areas in your brain, stop communicating with your ovaries. So it is the messages and the signals have stopped relaying. It's not like there's anything wrong with your hypothalamus. There's nothing wrong with your pituitary. There's nothing wrong with your ovaries. This is a condition. It's not a disease and it's not permanent, but it is a condition that happens because it's a backup system. Your body is like, oh, X, Y, and Z happened. And so now I have to trigger this backup system. And the backup system is hypothalamic amenorrhea. It's actually a very intelligent backup system for what we were putting our body through. So what does this mean? This means that through a chronic energy deficit over a period of time, this could be done through dieting alone. Generally, it is paired with dieting and exercise. So under eating, over exercise drops our energy levels. So think calorically coming through.
Yeah.
Because a lot of our clients are the healthiest people. Like we call them the walking unwell. Because
wait, she did air quotes. You can't see that.
Sorry.
Quote.
Yes. Healthiest people because we're eating all the veggies. We're eating the lean protein. We're staying away from saturated fats. And these are all things that we have to challenge. All these things that we've been told that are healthy. And so we do it to like the 100th degree. We do it so well that everyone looks at us and is like, I wish I had discipline like her. Or when you go to the doctor and your blood pressure is so low and they ask, are you a runner? And you're like, no. And they're like, oh, you're so healthy. I just wish all my patients had your blood work. And so while all these things are happening, what is also happening is that as a result of undereating and overexercising, this hypothalamus, pituitary, and ovary, the HPO axis, stops communicating. And when this stops communicating, you stop producing estrogen and progesterone. You start to have very low testosterone. And when I say low estrogen, this is generally, so just to kind of give you a reference range, males tend to sit about at 25, 30. When I was diagnosed, mine was 5. 25 or 30 estrogen, mine was 5. I have many clients that come to me and their estrogen is 5 or less than 5, meaning that they cannot pick it up. Even at 15, it's still half of what males like optimally should have. Even if your estrogen is around like 45. So while that's not technically low, but if you stay there, that's the issue, right? Like you're not meant to stay. So I know I kind of got off into the weeds, but hypothalamic amenorrhea is basically when your brain and your ovaries stop communicating due to a lack of energy coming in. And that is either done through undereating or overexercising or both. Does that make sense? And so really your body is saying, oh, you don't have enough energy to come through to get pregnant or breastfeed. So our body is like, I know the purpose of ovulation could be. And so if we don't have enough energy to do that, our body will shut down the reproductive system. So this means that your hypothalamus, pituitary, and ovaries, that HPO axis is suppressed. It's not broken. It's not permanently damaged. It is suppressed until we bring that energy level back up, and then it starts to turn back on again.
Wow. Wow. I mean,
It's wild.
it really is wild. I'm sitting here thinking nourishment,
Yes.
food, finding balance between our food, our movement, how we care for our bodies. Oh,
Yeah. Well, there's always a consequence whenever we're outside of balance.
yeah.
It may not be immediate. So think about this. Like, nobody develops HA just because you did a 1-day fast.
Oh, yeah.
No one develops HA like even early in a weight loss journey. It's always like 5 years or 4 years down the road where like you are completely at the bottom of your barrel, just tanked and with so many symptoms that resemble menopause, because we are basically putting our bodies through a menopause state. The difference is that this is reversible and menopause is not. But this is why a lot of young women, like I was also misdiagnosed with premature ovarian insufficiency, which basically means like you're done. Like you're done before menopause. Like, so like I was 29 and I was diagnosed with POI, premature ovarian insufficiency. Obviously, that was a misdiagnosis for multiple reasons, because my FSH levels, while they were like extremely low, that's not what it looks like with POI. But I think my doctor was so shocked at how low my levels were that they were like, oh, this is POI, right? So there's always consequences to being out of balance. And I think that's fair to say. Hence why finding balance is important. We don't have to be obsessive about it, because our body actually is pretty graceful, and there is a large range that it allows us to operate in before it's like, hey, you've taken it too far.
So what are some signs that a woman might have HA?
So things that tend to pick up for HA are also things that it's not a misdiagnosis, but when you shut off the hypothalamus, pituitary, ovary system, it has a trickle-down effect, right? Because it goes through the hypothalamus and the pituitary. Well, what else goes through the hypothalamus and the pituitary is the thyroid. So we have hypothalamus, pituitary, thyroid, hypothalamus, pituitary, ovary, hypothalamus, pituitary, and like your adrenals.
Whoa.
Right? So when the hypothalamus and pituitary start to get impacted, we're going to see this spread out trickle-down effect all over. So some of the things that you'll see that kind of hits on the thyroid side is you'll be cold all the time. Cold hands, cold feet. People get misdiagnoses, Raynaud's. Not saying it's a misdiagnosis, but that's not the root. There's something that's causing it. So digestion will get impacted because your T3 is actually in charge of digestive enzymes. So all of a sudden you start having food intolerances. You start to be really bloated. So then you start restricting more. It's a whole cycle. A lot of things that we will see in menopause, so brain fatigue, vaginal dryness, painful sex, massive anxiety, or maybe it's just physical anxiety, right? Because we're not getting the progesterone to really help with the anxiousness, right? We really then start to see like hair falling out. Your skin will get much, much drier. And so you will have the appearance of better skin because your skin is dry rather than oily. But like our skin needs that elasticity. Obviously, you're not having a period for at least 3 months, like consecutively, or sometimes we'll have some people who will ebb and flow in and out of HA because it's not permanent and it is reversible. But if you're teetering on the line, you will come in and out all the time. So we'll have a missing period, or we'll have really short cycles or really short luteal phases, those types of things. And again, like the anxiousness, the insomnia, it really resembles menopause. That's why I say it, like you can get misdiagnosed as early menopause, but then I would challenge you of like, let me see your labs. Because for menopause, we see like once somebody is in menopause, not perimenopause, that one's a little bit more trickier, but your FSH skyrockets. But if your FSH is tanked and it remains tanked, that's not menopause. And that means that this is something that we can address. But this becomes really difficult because it's all the things that we've told we've been doing really well. And the things that we like to have control over, not balance, but control over, which is like we like controlling our food. We like controlling our movement. We have found movement to be our crutch rather than finding other ways to handle stress. Or sometimes it's easier for us to go on a run or go work out rather than talk to the Lord about it. Because it's so complex emotionally. And I'm not saying that there's not a time and a place to move your body, help you move through emotions. But I think if like we're constantly choosing movement over processing with the Lord, again, there's going to be a natural response to that. Like, you know what I mean? Like we're going to have an imbalance.
Yeah.
It just is. Just like controlling our food or restricting our food whenever we're stressed, rather than like being like saying, hey, you know what, Lord, I'm actually really struggling with your sovereignty right now. I'm struggling to see it. I'm struggling to understand it. I'm struggling to understand how you can be good and sovereign and my life is looking like this.
Yeah.
So it's easier for me just to like be like, you know what? Diet. I am cutting out the carbs because we like to fix things. We want tangible action in order to like almost reassure ourselves that like we can handle this situation. These things are not bad. But think about this. Any spiritual gift without the Holy Spirit is going to lead you sideways.
Yep.
And again, how do we have balance? I feel like doing these things without the Holy Spirit, without the relationship with the Lord, it just leaves us so vulnerable and easily led astray, even if we are believers.
Right. Absolutely. It, like our guards down. We don't have any armor to protect us.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I want to pause for just a moment and say how much it means to me that you are here and listening. And it kind of just hit me like I might have assumed that you already know this, but the Old School Food Freedom Podcast is just the beginning of what we offer at Finding Balance. It's like a gateway into a world of Christ-centered biblical resources to help you break free from food struggles and body shame and the lies of diet culture and walk in deeper freedom and identity in Christ. It's Jesus in the middle of your struggles with food. So if you've never been to findingbalance.com, please go check out our website after the show, and you'll find things like our eating issues test and the daily vitamin E devotional and our Christian treatment finder and prayer groups and community support. We have a freedom blog, recommended books, our lasting freedom curriculum, and so much more. So go explore and see what God leads you to next. Okay, back to it. You know, and I had a thought here. When you said, you know, it takes some time, like it's not just I skipped this meal or I went on a fast or something. It happens over time. So as you're saying this, I'm looking back in my life. Now, I've never been diagnosed with HA, but the things that you're saying, and I have a very difficult history of infertility and baby loss and endometriosis, all the things that I've dealt with. But I look back and it was very late when I got my first period, like I was 15. And so to think back of like when disordered eating really started happening and controlling food and eating less because of a comment that some boy made in school. And I start to look and I'm thinking, okay, so, you know, back in the day, we used to keep track of our periods in a period journal. And it's not like I was promiscuous or anything, so I wasn't worried that I'm late or something, but we kept it and knew when to expect our period so we could be prepared and all these things. And then I stopped having a period and freaked out. I mean, I'm in high school, not having sex, and it was very bizarre. But now that I look, I can see the correlation of, and I have thyroid issues and all these things, PCOS, insulin resistance, all that stuff. And the fact that if these eating behaviors are implemented sometimes in junior high school, and a lot of times we hear women share that disordered eating disorder behaviors exploded in college. And so then not everyone progresses in this way, but like often you get married sometime after college and maybe want to start a family and then you're struggling. So I can see like how that progresses.
Yes. I know exactly what you're talking about. And I think even for probably the generation coming up or even my generation, a lot of us were put on birth control immediately. And so you actually never had an indicator that something was off. And so I'm not like against birth control. I mean, I have my thoughts and opinions about it, but I think like professionally where I stand is like, I'm just about informed consent. Like I actually just need you to know all sides of this. You know, I don't need you to have a PhD in it. I think we've been told that our menstrual cycle and hormones are so complex that you can't understand it, as if it's been like gatekept information about our own body. Like you can't understand that. That's too complex. So, you know, so clearly I have some thoughts and opinions.
There's an undercurrent and I'm feeling it too, but yeah.
Yeah, you know, but you don't know what you don't know. And so if you're on birth control, you don't know that your cycles are getting shorter. You don't know that you're skipping a period here and there. We have suppressed that. So what's interesting is that is what happens with, like, the brain communication is suppressed, you know, through that. And then so we continue that through high school, we continue that through college. And then by the time someone wants to either just get off of it because they're like, you know what, I've been on something for 15 years. That's a little strange. And then like they want to start a family, right? So either they're just like at this point where they're like, you know, that's strange, or hey, you know, I want to start a family. Now they get off and they're like, where is my period? And then you start to think about, well, I mean, honestly, the last time I even had a natural bleed was 15, 20 years ago. And you're just like, yeah, I should really probably have checked in on that. You know, it's just this like funnel that I think that we were put through. And without that information, we never actually get the opportunity to connect the dots that, hey, when I am training for a marathon, I tend to lose my cycle. Or, hey, when I'm really stressed and I cut back on my food, or I'm over exercising, I notice that my cycles are getting shorter, or I'm getting really bad PMS. Like we are missing this massive bit of communication from our body, which you don't need a PhD to understand that your cycle's missing. Yeah. You're just like, huh. So I'm not sitting here saying that it's not designed beautifully by our creator with things that would blow our mind. And I can't wait to get to heaven. He's like, oh, you thought you understood, but let me show you how cool the body really was. You know what I mean? Like, I can't wait for like science class. You know what I mean? But I just feel like our bodies are designed so intricately and intentionally, right? And yet the Lord gives us this opportunity to be clued in and doesn't make it overcomplicated. Like, hey, your period's missing. Yeah. During that time of high school and college is when women start dieting, is when we start over exercising. And we have no feedback to tell us, hey, something's off.
Yeah, definitely. So there's the thing of missing periods and wondering why that is, that's happening. And then like when you're in high school and college, sometimes you're not excited to get pregnant at the moment, right? Like that's not what you're going for. But then at some point, for some people, you may be wanting to get pregnant. So how is fertility connected? Like there's hormonal imbalances. You've kind of given this high overview, but there's balances and imbalances. So there's getting pregnant, there's staying pregnant, there's libido, there's perimenopause, all these things. Yeah. How is that connected to HA?
Yes. And you know what? While obviously fertility is kind of coined for getting pregnant per se, I really think that fertility is more of like a health marker. So I think if we could eventually transition everybody to thinking of like my fertility as a health marker, which includes a libido. It's really interesting. I think like one of the side effects of being on the birth control pill is a reduced libido, which I guess when we're looking at it from a physiological, like, well, you didn't want to get pregnant, so I guess people aren't really too concerned about that, right? That kind of almost like becomes this norm of like, you know, just really uninterested. But then when you develop HA, your testosterone also tanks. So like women struggle with even very low sex drive. It is almost every single client that comes to us. Now, there's multiple things that impact a sex drive. And then like once you're married and then you're like, oh, okay, this is the appropriate place for it. And then it's gone. So like a sex drive is actually a really important sign of our fertility. We are supposed to move through this, you know, like our period. And then when it builds up to ovulation, our sex drive builds up, right? And then we're in our luteal phase and we're like,
feed me tacos and call me pretty and leave me alone, right?
Yeah.
You know, like there's a natural ebb and flow to it. But when it's completely flatlined, that's a sign of fertility that we just don't even realize that our body is trying to communicate to us. So when I decided to get my period back, it wasn't even because I wanted to get pregnant, but it was because my symptoms were so bad. And all those symptoms are connected to our fertility because our fertility requires hormones, and a woman's existence, if we want it to be quality, talk to anybody going through menopause, like the early years of menopause, they're like, you know what? Quality of life depends on some hormones.
Here we are. This is where I am.
Like whatever hormone helps me with sleep, I think I understand what happens when you don't have it. And I'm here to tell you that I have an opinion, right?
Yeah.
Or like the brain fog or the forgetfulness. We don't understand that a woman's brain is estrogen dependent.
Yeah.
Meaning that it is configured differently than men because men aren't estrogen dependent. And so when you take estrogen and it starts to dwindle, like you feel it, right? And so that's part of fertility. Like, you know, like we think of estrogen as just fertility for, you know, building like the uterine lining, but it's also about our brain too, right? So I really think that fertility is so much broader. And that's why fertility is actually important for every woman, not just the ones that want to get pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Not to disregard people's desires who do want to get pregnant, but to the point of like now, like when it comes to that population of people who do want to get pregnant, we need estrogen to build a uterine lining for that egg to implant and to hold. And when you have low estrogen or no estrogen, you're not building that lining. That's why you don't have a period. And so progesterone is actually connected to our thyroid. And remember how that HPT, the HPO, and the HPA axis. And so the thyroid and the progesterone, it's like chicken or the egg. All we know is that they need each other.
Yeah.
And so if we have low progesterone, it's really hard to sustain a pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
Like progesterone is important for that. So it's important for your sanity in terms of sleep. It's important for your sanity in terms of the like anxiety, but it's also important for sustaining a pregnancy as well, right? So it's so connected that you almost can't separate it. Fertility is for all women, whether they want to get pregnant or not. So again, think about testosterone, like this just kind of came back up to me that like we think, oh, well, males need that. I don't want too much. I don't want to get bulky.
Yeah.
But you also need it to feel driven and have purpose and have focus. This is why, you know, like we joke like ovulation energy, our testosterone is high. So is our libido, but our testosterone. If you catch me around ovulation energy, you know, because I'm swinging for the fences in my business, in my life. Like,
killing it. Yeah.
everybody is going to be elevated and everybody is coming with me. You know what I mean?
Up. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, this last ovulation, I was in Kenya with a nonprofit that I'm helping start up to bring period cups to the women in Kenya.
Oh.
I'm just, yes, we're speaking to women in villages. We're doing all these things. I'm figuring out, how am I going to fund this, Lord? Like, this is cool. And then we wind up also putting in an offer on buying a business. And I'm sitting here when I get back home now in my luteal phase being like, I'm exhausted by my own ovulation energy.
Wow.
And it's not a bad thing. Like I know, because I've been cycling, you know, without medication, to know that I have really big energy, really big ideas, and I need to put them on a board and I'm going to chase some of them. And then it's okay if I'm less excited about them or if I feel slightly overwhelmed by my own ambition in my luteal phase. Luteal phase is just time for me to veg out and get my admin work done. And it's okay, right? But I bring this up to say a lot of times we'll see depression hit or people feeling a lack of drive. And they're like, I don't know who I am. And we need to also look at testosterone. And so the other part of this too is that whenever we have estrogen is low and progesterone is low and testosterone is low, you know what's really high? Our cortisol. Let's just bring in an elevated cortisol.
Gosh.
Right?
I'm like,
you're like, this is a cocktail that I did not order.
Did not want at all.
And then so obviously we have things that come in with an imbalance of cortisol. And so whenever we don't have those hormones, we're relying on cortisol. And so now we have lifestyles and habits and behaviors that is cortisol driven That's not really your personality. You've just been jacked up on cortisol for a really long time and we haven't come off yet.
Wow.
So you're like, this is the state that my women come to me in. And then it's just a lot of Jesus, a lot of peeling back some of these layers. And some of these layers are protective layers.
Yeah.
These are some of the things that we've started to do in order to cope with this really wide imbalance of hormones. And so when it comes to HA, it's not an imbalance, it's a pure depletion. Does that make sense?
It's a big difference.
It's a very big difference. Yeah. It's not like we're working with a moving target. It's completely depleted. And so we have to bring it back up. It's an imbalance in terms of it's not within a range and it's outside of this range and it's on the lower end. You know what I mean?
When we were prepping for this episode, you had said something that I thought was really good, and I don't want us to miss this. We started talking about body idolatry the desire to control our bodies and our food intake. You'd mentioned it in the beginning of this episode, but you were talking about the idols and the cost of giving up. Our idol is fertility.
Yes.
And many women meet a boundary that will not budge. So talk about that, because that's so impactful.
Yes. So again, I'm not gatekeeping here. How do you get out of HA? We bring up our intake, we rest, and we give it, time. That solution is simple, but it is not easy. Because along the way, even as believers, this is not just for unbelievers. Unbelievers don't just fall into HA, and believers are protected because we end up making our temple an idol.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. The temple was so beautiful on earth. The one in heaven is still going, you know what I mean? But they're here on earth. It was gold plated. Hello. I mean, the details of it. Have you seen anything gold plated lately? I have not. You know what I mean? But I can only imagine. And it's the finest of linen and all the details and all the things. And it's gorgeous because the Lord designed it himself. And yet you never see the Lord tell us to worship the temple. He never tells us to get so distracted by the temple that we turn our gaze and we look at the temple rather than Jesus. And unfortunately, that is what we've done with our bodies. And this is where the real work happens with my clients, is that we almost have to first become an awareness that we have made our body composition an idol. How and why? Ashley, those are fighting words. I know. I understand. I hear you.
Love, grace, no shame intended. It's a curious question.
Yes.
When we look at our lives, our well-being, the balance in our lives, getting curious about that question is not to call you out. It's a curiosity of...
I think it's to call you up.
Yeah.
It might feel like feeling calling out, but to call you up, because if we're at this place where we won't eat something because it'll change my body and I can't have that or else I won't be happy.
Yeah.
We have been disillusioned to believe that our bodies were made for the purpose of making us happy rather than being the vehicle to use to fulfill the calling and the purpose that the Lord has put in our hearts and that he's called us on this earth. I truly believe that it's a vehicle to carry out the purpose that God has given you. Not a source of happiness. And I know that probably rubs people such a wrong way, but your body is not capable of that. Plus your body is going to be changing. It's going to be changing through the seasons. When you're 90, are you going to find your happiness in your body composition? These are real questions. And so to the people who have HA or who are struggling with just a little bit of body composition being their idol, I know that this is reaching their heart and it's probably irritating them. And it's not to be mean, but it's because idols don't like to be touched. They don't like to be called out. And, awareness to be brought to. I think if we're sitting here and we're I'm not happy unless I get my workout in, I just want us to pause and explore that.
Yeah.
How you treat others and how you go throughout your day and how you feel about yourself is solely dependent on whether you can micromanage your body.
Yeah.
There's not freedom in that. And I think that's the biggest thing is that, the cost of having an idol is our freedom, but in this specific state, it is our fertility. And this doesn't mean that all fertility issues are related. You know what I mean? There are some unexplained. Endometriosis is not a body composition, like idolatry. But that doesn't mean that we can't also be suffering from that too, because the world tells us that our worth is defined in how we look and how we present ourselves. I think we're very comfortable saying that I know that my salvation is in Jesus and Jesus alone. And we'll even say the cross and nothing else.
Yeah.
But when it comes to our worth, it's, yes, Jesus told me this and I'm a size blank. Yes, Jesus told me this and says this about me. And when he made me, he looked and said that this was very good. But I can't see myself being happy unless my body looks like this. That is basically saying, Jesus, what you're saying about my worth, that's nice, that's cute, but it's not enough unless I have blank. And that is something that the Lord had to reveal in my heart, was that is exactly how I felt. Lord, I don't believe that I could be happy in a bigger body. That's why I won't surrender this to you. And the cost was my fertility, my hormonal health.
I felt he could not use me until I got my body, quote unquote, needed to be where he would want it to be. And so I did the same things.
Well, that, and think about this. I think we think of like, oh, the devil wants you distracted. And you're like, okay, well, as long as I don't lie, murder, kill, you know what I mean?
Some, quote, big sins. Right. Sin is sin. Yeah.
But what if I can have you so distracted about your body that you don't live your like purpose out because you're so busy trying to micromanage your food and your body? I don't have to get you to murder somebody to be distracted. I just have to have you obsessed about your appearance so that you're too distracted to do what I asked you to call, or that you're so distracted that you miss the people that I've asked you to talk to today, or that you're so distracted that you don't take the chances or you don't put yourself out there because I told you to, but because you don't feel qualified.
Right.
And so what's interesting about this is that my women are intelligent. I have goal-driven women. Like my clients are brilliant. They're all very driven, goal-oriented, achieving big things. They have grit. They know how to push through. They know how to do all these things. But they're here with me because HA is the one thing that they have not been able to push through just to make it happen. And it's the first time that they potentially have heard a no, and it's not budging. It's almost like for the first time we've been introduced to a hard boundary set by our body. And it doesn't matter if you have a good intention. So it's like, okay, well, I want to ovulate and I want to take care of my body. That should be enough. No, your body needs you to follow through with it. And so it's this boundary that's really hard for us to like navigate because we've probably never been told no in a way where there's no wiggle room.
Yeah.
And so it's this place where we don't get to pick how much food our body does. Like we have to surrender and let our body lead. And we almost have to surrender and believe that our body was never against us.
Yeah.
We have to surrender and believe that our body was designed by an intelligent God and like it knows how to ovulate. There's so much surrender. So from someone going from type A, goal-driven, jacked up on cortisol, hasn't seen progesterone in how many years, right? To this place of surrender. It's a holy dismantling that I get to see the Lord do. And it's wild because you don't get to go through this holy dismantling without being transformed. And I'm not the one transforming. I just get to be the person that's like, hey, don't jump off the ship. Like we're still going somewhere.
Usher him in, lock arms with them.
Yeah, I'm just like, girl, we going to do this. This is going to sting a little bit, but I promise that the Lord is good. And there is freedom on the other side, but you can't take your micromanaging into this place of freedom.
Yeah. So if someone is listening today and a lot of the things that you've said reflect what they've been going through, or maybe, it's a mom and her daughter has been struggling with this, what are some next steps that you would encourage them to take that would help them recover and flip this to fertility and potential freedom? We don't know. Again, I'm going to say in the HA Society, you have seen so much success. Like your success rate with this is very high.
Very high.
And I also understand from someone who's struggled with these things and had a hysterectomy at 36 and lost my ability to bear children on earth. So I understand the place. I want to just speak to the person who hears this and feels the fear of, I'm scared to step out because it works for all these people. But what if I'm in that 0.5% that it doesn't work? That is the thing that I think about. But is there some high level thing that you could say that would help with next steps to recovery?
Absolutely. And if you're that person, don't worry. All of our clients are that person. We call it the unicorn syndrome.
Hey, yeah.
Let's get connected and let's chat. But I would encourage you to start exploring how you talk about your body or how you talk about other people's bodies. What is the language around you? Like your friends, your family? Are we commenting on people's bodies, right? The reason why I think that's an interesting place to start is because we have to first be open that there's more to you than like your physical body.
Yeah.
Like just try on, what if I've misunderstood the purpose of my body and I've been trying to use it to make me happy rather than to carry out the calling that the Lord has put in my life? I think that curiosity allows us to start the fundamental process of moving through things. What areas am I restricting? The biggest thing is if I've said anything and you've been like, Ashley, don't touch blank. Don't touch my workouts. Don't you touch my runs. I think the areas that you're probably most offended about what I've said today, I would just write those down out of curiosity.
Yeah. Gentle curiosity.
Yeah. Gentle curiosity. And then just ask the Lord, hey, what do you have to say about my food? What do you have to say about my workout routine? Where do you desire more balance for me?
Oh, yeah. So good. To wrap it up, do you want to describe a time you experienced true freedom?
Yes. So just recently, I just got back from Kenya. And I really feel like as you recover from disordered eating or eating disorder, I don't know if you ever officially arrive. I think the Lord continues to usher you into more and more freedom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not that you're not healed, but I don't believe that I will ever cap out the Lord's freedom on this side of heaven.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
So I'm always like, okay, more freedom. I'm excited. But it was like a 27-hour day travel day. And for the first time in my life, I went to the airport with no food.
Oh.
I was just like, whatever happens, happens. Whatever they serve me on the plane happens. Whatever I find, it's going to be okay. And to not be the traveling Meals on Wheels lady with all her food with her.
Meals on Wheels.
You know what I mean? Or obsessively looking up at what terminal am I at? What food is available? Oh my gosh, what is the airline going to serve me? What if I don't have enough snacks? And to know that I'm going to be fine was actually very recent. I think just the Lord was just like, look how far you've come, Ashley.
Yes. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Love that. Ashley, thank you so much for being here. I know this is such a deep topic. You and I could talk. This could be
Yes.
3 months worth of episodes. But the cool thing is there is a podcast that y'all have.
Yes. Hypothalamic Amenorrhea podcast. Very SEO friendly. The Hypothalamic Amenorrhea podcast. We're probably up to 400 episodes. We have 1 million episodes there. Go and listen, and I'm sure there is whatever you are looking for, we have covered for sure.
Yeah, I've listened to several, and sometimes it's hard, but it's always good.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to go into, but if a next step for you is, okay, I just want to learn a little more before I take the next step, that's a great place to start.
Absolutely.
And you can find links to their Instagram, the HA Society. I know you have a community and groups and coaching and all the things. So go and explore and connect with them on Instagram and Facebook. Thank you again for being here. This was really wonderful. Thank you for listening to the Old School Food Freedom Podcast. For over 20 years, Finding Balance has been helping people walk in freedom by discovering where Jesus fits into their struggles with food and body image. If you want more biblical truth and encouragement, head on over to FINDINGbalance.com and subscribe to our free daily vitamin devotional. While you're there, explore our Christ-centered Lasting Freedom online course and small group tools. You can help keep this ministry going by donating today at FINDINGbalance.com. See you next time. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose, treat, or prescribe a particular course of action. If you have or suspect you may have an eating disorder, please consult your healthcare provider. If you desire to receive faith-based care, visit ChristianTreatmentFinder.com to browse professionals with the Kingdom Campaign Against Eating Disorders.